The heat of the studio lights bore down like the midday sun on black pavement, thick and relentless. The room buzzed with the unspoken tension that only live television can summon, a strange mix of anticipation, dread, and performance. The set of The View was a polished battlefield, wrapped in cheerful pastels and sharp-tongued laughter, and today, the air was electric. Kennedy Montgomery adjusted her blazer with a steady hand, though her heart rattled in her chest like a tambourine. She wasn't new to this game, far from it. Once a fast-talking, punk-infused VJ on MTV, she'd lived many lives. Libertarian commentator, political outlier, mother, survivor of cancelled shows and resurrected dreams. But this moment felt different. Across the table, Joy Behar was a queen. In her court, arms crossed, eyes sharp behind red-framed glasses, Joy, seasoned, sharp, and unapologetically liberal, was ready to pounce. The segment had started tame enough, discussing the upcoming election, each host offering the same well-worn talking points. But Kennedy had taken a breath and said something different, something real. "I just think Americans are exhausted," she had said softly, her voice carrying the weight of something deeper. "They're tired of being told what to think. They want voices, not echoes." Joy's eyebrows shot up. "Well, Kennedy," she said, with a laugh that landed somewhere between amusement and scorn. "Maybe you're just hearing from your corner of the internet, but that's not what most Americans think." Kennedy paused, measuring the moment. The studio audience, trained to clap at cues, waited. Cameras rolled. Millions watched. "You don't speak for America," Kennedy said, her voice calm but fierce. "You speak from Manhattan. And that's fine, but don't mistake applause." In this room for the voice of a nation, the silence that followed was deafening. It wasn't just a clapback, it was a ripple. And then, a tidal wave. By the time the episode ended, social media was ablaze. The clip hit Twitter within minutes, splashed with captions like, "Kennedy drags Joy into next week, and she said what we're all thinking." But behind the viral moment was a story, one most people never saw. Because Kennedy didn't just walk into that studio for ratings or a soundbite. She walked in carrying years of conflict, a lifetime of contradictions, and a battle she'd been fighting long before the world decided to tune in. Back in her dressing room after the show, she sat alone, her reflection staring back at her through smudged eyeliner and tired eyes. She exhaled deeply, trying to calm the adrenaline. Her phone buzzed relentlessly, texts from producers, friends, trolls, fans, all blending into a whirlwind of emojis and exclamation marks. But her mind drifted elsewhere, to a kitchen in Oregon, 15 years ago. When her mother told her, "Speak the truth even when your voice shakes." Kennedy's mother, Ellen, was the daughter of factory workers, fierce, principled, and unflinchingly honest. She'd raised Kennedy with a mix of wit and grit, often quoting Maya Angelou while peeling potatoes. Ellen had died 2 years ago after a brutal fight with pancreatic cancer. But her presence lingered, especially in moments like this, when Kennedy felt both seen and isolated. Across the country, another story was unfolding. 22-year-old Leah Thompson, a journalism student at Howard University, had just seen the clip on TikTok. She wasn't political, at least, not outwardly. But something about the way Kennedy spoke stirred something inside her. Leah, like many her age, felt stranded in the middle of warring ideologies. She wanted to believe there was more to America than the noise, the division, the shouting matches on cable news. She replayed the clip, mouth slightly open. "You don't speak for America." She murmured it to herself, like a prayer. Inspired, she opened her laptop and started typing a blog post. The day someone finally said it. It wasn't professional or polished, but it was real. Within hours, it went viral. Thousands of comments poured in. Young people, old people, left, right, and in between. All echoing the same sentiment. "Thank you." Someone finally said it. Meanwhile, Joy Behar sat in her Upper West Side apartment, swirling a glass of red wine. She was no stranger to backlash. She'd survived worse, much worse. But something about Kennedy's words stuck in her mind, like a thorn under the skin. You don't speak for America. Was it arrogance? Maybe, but it was also a challenge, a reminder that no one voice, not even hers, could hold the whole truth. She stared at her TV, where the news ran reruns of the very clip she starred in. She chuckled to herself. She got me. The next morning, Kennedy walked through Central Park with her daughter, Sophie. The city just beginning to stir under a watercolor sunrise. Sophie was 16, cynical, brilliant, and unfiltered. She rarely commented on her mother's work, but today, she broke the silence. "Hey, I saw your thing on TikTok," she said. "You were kinda badass." Kennedy laughed. "Thanks, I think." Sophie paused. "Do you think it mattered?" Kennedy looked at her daughter. The leaves rustled softly. Dogs barked in the distance. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but I meant it." That afternoon, a producer from NPR reached out for an interview. A conservative podcast offered a feature, then CNN. Even The Atlantic called, asking for an op-ed. But Kennedy wasn't interested in cashing in. She knew the moment was bigger than her. This wasn't just about politics, it was about people. Being hungry for truth. For authenticity. For someone to stop talking like a brand and start talking like a human being. As the days passed, Kennedy's words began to evolve from a quote to a movement. Hashtags popped up. Hashtag speak for yourself. Hashtag real voices. Hashtag middle matters. A coalition of Gen Z and Gen X activists started organizing community discussions, not rallies, not protests, conversations. People who didn't vote, the same, sitting across tables from each other, saying, "Let's talk." Leah, the student from Howard, was invited to speak at one of the first events in Chicago. Nervous but emboldened, she read her blog aloud to a crowd of 300. America doesn't belong to one channel or one hashtag. It belongs to the mums in Nebraska, the baristas in Brooklyn, the coal workers in West Virginia, and the students trying to figure out what the hell they believe. It belongs to all of us. But only if we start listening again. The crowd erupted. Kennedy watched from the sidelines, tears forming behind her lashes. Joy Behar, in an unexpected twist, reached out. A month later, she invited Kennedy to dinner, not a camera in sight. Over salmon and Chardonnay, the two women spoke like old friends, not adversaries. They didn't agree on much, but they laughed and listened. And that, Kennedy thought, was enough. Later that night, back in her hotel room, Kennedy scribbled in her journal something she hadn't done in years. "I didn't plan to go viral. I just got tired of pretending silence was polite. I said it for the kid who's afraid to speak up in class. For the grandmother who doesn't tweet but still matters. For the nurse in the Midwest. The truck driver in Alabama. The teacher in Harlem. For the ones who still believe that disagreement isn't hatred and that truth has more than one accent." The story didn't end with Kennedy, or Joy, or Leah. It spread like wind through dry grass, catching in unexpected places in churches, classrooms, coffee shops, truck stops, and front porches. People started asking again, "What do you think?" Not "What did the pundits say?" And slowly, America tilted just a little, toweled, something real. Because the truth, once spoken boldly, never disappears. It echoes, and sometimes, if we're lucky, it brings us back to each other.